Good morning, boys and girls. Today we're going to do our quadrilaterals part 2 of our polygon lesson. Let's talk a little bit about some of these words here. Quadrilaterals are four-sided shapes that are closed, because we know that they're a polygon, and polygons are closed shapes that are more than three sides. And a quadrilateral has four sides. We're going to talk about different quadrilaterals today, but I need to go over a couple vocabulary words before we do that. The biggest vocabulary we're going to go over today is parallel lines. We know there's more than one line because we see the S here at the end of the word. Okay? Parallel lines that are never going to touch each other. I'm going to draw a bunch of lines. And I notice that these lines, if they continue on forever and ever, because we've talked before about how lines go on forever and ever and ever, and if these lines go on forever and ever and ever, they're never going to run into each other. They're just going to keep moving along side by side, and they're never going to run into each other. Okay? Those are parallel lines. Parallel lines can go up and down. Like these two lines, the two yellow lines are parallel to each other. They can go side to side. The two green lines are parallel to each other. Or they can go in a diagonal like this. Those red lines are parallel to each other. All of these lines, if they continue on forever, are never going to run into each other. Now, obviously, these red lines are going to run into the yellow lines, but they're not parallel to each other. Just these two are parallel to each other. These two are parallel to each other. And these two are parallel to each other. Okay? An example of lines that are not parallel to each other. Lines that are not parallel to each other would be lines like this. Even though they're not hitting now, they are going to hit if the line continues on forever. See how that's going to hit right there? So those lines are not example of parallel lines because they are going to run into each other. Now that we've talked about what parallel lines are, we're going to talk about this big word, parallelogram. A parallelogram is any shape that has parallelogram is any four-sided shape that has two sets of parallel lines. So what I mean when I say that is the top and the bottom are parallel to each other, and these sides are parallel to each other. So the green sides are parallel to each other, and the orange sides are parallel to each other. So that's a parallelogram because it has two sets of lines that are parallel to each other. If this line goes on forever and ever, it's never going to run into this line that goes on forever and ever. Sometimes I like to think of parallel lines as like sides of the street. You might live on this side of the street, and across the street, the other side of the street, is not going to run into your side of the street because they're parallel to each other. Almost like a sidewalk too. Okay? So a rectangle is a parallelogram. Another example of a parallelogram is if we have the top and we have the bottom. We have those lines are parallel to each other, the yellow lines, and then we have these green lines. Even though they're not going straight up and down, these lines are going at a diagonal. They're still, if they're going to continue on forever, are not going to run into each other. Okay, so that's another example of a parallelogram right there. And the last example we're going to talk about of a parallelogram today is we're going to talk about a square. A square is a parallelogram because the top and the bottom are parallel to each other, and the sides are parallel to each other. The interesting thing about a square, though, is that all four sides are the same size, the same length. So we've got rectangles that are parallelograms. We have squares that are parallelograms. We have rectangles that are tipped to the side like this. I got to erase this little piece over here. There we go. So there's some examples of some parallelograms. Uh-oh, I forgot to close this one. So technically that's not a quadrilateral because I didn't close it. Now there we go. Now it's closed. Now it's a parallelogram. A rhombus is a parallelogram that all four sides are the same size, and it can either look like this, like a square, or it could be angled to the side like this. Not the best picture, sorry guys. That's also a rhombus. All four sides are the same size. This side is parallel to this side, and the top is parallel to the bottom. Same with over here. The top is parallel to the bottom, and this side is parallel to this side. And the very last vocabulary word we're going to talk about today is a trapezoid. A trapezoid is not a parallelogram, but it does have two sets of parallel lines. The top is parallel to the bottom, but then these lines going on the sides are not parallel because, I'm going to show you why in just a second. If these two side lines continue on, keep going, they're going to hit each other right here. Okay, so it is a quadrilateral because it has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, but it is not a parallelogram because only the top is parallel to the bottom. The sides are not parallel because if they continued on, they are going to hit each other. I always like to think of a trapezoid as a triangle missing its head because this part is gone. Okay, so the top of it got taken away and we just have the bottom part of a triangle. All right, I hope those words were a little easier to understand, or easy to understand. We will be talking about them today during Zoom after our Jeopardy game.
Good morning from Zebra and Mrs. Ferreira out in the driveway reviewing polygons. Polygons are any shape that has more than 3 sides that is closed. And we talked about before, you can't get out of this shape unless you cross a line. And remember, poor Zebra was stuck in there. He's still upset with me about it. He was very upset. He wouldn't talk to me the whole day yesterday because I locked him in there. So we have triangles, 3-sided shapes. We have quadrilaterals, 4-sided shapes. We have pentagons, 5-sided shapes. And we have hexagons, 6-sided shapes. Tomorrow we're going to talk about 7, 8, 9, and 10-sided shapes. But for today, I did a vocabulary lesson about quadrilaterals, different types of quadrilaterals, and your points assignment today, I can't remember if you can come over this way, is I'd like you to draw the shapes, the 4-sided quadrilaterals we talked about today. The first one I want you to draw is, which one should we do first, Zebra? Oh, Zebra says the trapezoid. Okay, Zebra. The trapezoid is first. So, a trapezoid is kind of like Mrs. Ferry said, going to be the triangle with the top of it cut off. So we've got a longer line on the bottom, a shorter line on top, and then it's connected by 2 diagonal lines. That's our trapezoid. Is that good enough for you? Okay, Zebra says good. Now, the other things I want you to draw today for your point for our game that we're playing is I want you to draw some parallelograms. Remember, that's a big word, but not that challenging. It just means that they have 2 sets of parallel lines. Different examples of parallelograms are, which one should we do first? A square? Okay. Our squares, all 4 sides are the same size. We can do rectangles. A rectangle is a parallelogram because the top and the bottom are parallel and the sides are parallel. So those are 2 examples of parallelograms. We've got a rhombus with diagonal lines going down in the top, and this line is parallel to this line, and this line is parallel to this line, and both of these shapes right here, they both have, all 4 sides are the same length. And then another example would be just with the diagonal lines going down like this, is also a parallelogram. So, in review, Zebra and I, you gonna help me check work with me? Okay, good. All right, Zebra and I would like to see a trapezoid. Camerawoman, if you can get a picture of the review of the trapezoid. And our parallelograms, take a picture of your work, send it to me, and I can't wait to see you guys at Zoom today at 1 o'clock. Miss you lots. I wish I was with you in person, but this will have to do. Zebra, you want to say goodbye? Oh, he blew you guys a kiss. There's your zebra kiss this morning. See you at 1 o'clock, guys. Bye.